All right. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining today. I really appreciate it. It's been so nice, like corresponding with all of you individually through email as well as through groups. And just welcome to the Meet the Mermaids webinar. I'm Julie Siegel. So I'm the donor relations intern for Dickinson this year, where I've been working on increasing awareness regarding the Mermaid Society. And as you can see, we are joined by three lovely panelists this evening. They've graciously taken time out of their schedule to tell us about their experience being active members of the Mermaid Society, as well as life post-Dickinson. So we really encourage you to take this opportunity to learn about the Mermaid Society and find a chance to engage with alumni that you may have like interests with in common and reach out to afterwards. And then Kate, if you briefly want to go over the Q&A and how that will be working as well.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Hoffman. I'm the Associate Director for Donor Relations here at the college. I have the privilege of working with all of our wonderful Mermaid Society members. So I'm so glad that you all were able to take the time to speak with us this evening. As Julia mentioned, I'll be moderating the Q&A portion of tonight's conversation. So as we go through the questions, feel free to use the chat feature and we will get to those questions at the end of the conversation.
Yeah. So just to kick things off, I would love all of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves, the year you graduated Dickinson, as well as in addition to how long you've been part of the Mermaid Society and where you work or what you're currently doing.
Ladies first.
I can kick it off because I'm the youngest. Hi everyone. My name is Olivia Termini. I still consider myself a recent grad, so 2019. And I joined the Mermaid Society my senior year during kind of the senior class gift period. I was actually sitting in that donor relations intern position at the time. So, and one of my housemates was spearheading the events at the end of the year. So I felt compelled, and I post-grad worked on a congressional campaign in central Pennsylvania as the finance director, actually for a Dickinson alum, Tom Breyer, class of 14. So that was super fun. And then now I work in government consulting, and I'm in DC working actually on coronavirus response and recovery. So it's been an interesting transition. I job searched during the pandemic, so know all about that, and just happy to be here tonight with everybody, and sending love to Dickinson on campus and off campus.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Claire Brawdy, class of 2016. Just like Olivia, I've been a part of the Mermaid Society since my senior year and helped organize a lot of the events when I was on campus. And my job is I work as a project manager for a group called the Healthcare Anchor Network, which is a group of about 60 plus hospitals across the United States that are working together to tweak how they do their everyday business in order to address things like racial inequity, economic disparities, and things of that nature. So really excited to be with you all tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cody Nichols. I'm a part of the class of 2015. I also, like Claire and Olivia, joined the Mermaid Society my senior year with the senior class gift. That was what, $20.15, I believe. Still actively involved on campus, but currently I work for the Campbell Soup Company as a customer sales lead. I'm responsible for a variety of smaller as well as some larger retail partners, selling our entire portfolio. So it's a really great experience. But nonetheless, I'm really excited to be here with all of you, really willing to answer any questions that you all might have. Looking for a great time.
All right. So with that, I'd officially like to start off our discussion by asking you all about your path after Dickinson and any advice you may have specifically for seniors like myself and my other seniors that have joined this call, preparing to enter into that job market.
Yeah, as I mentioned, job searching during a pandemic, it's really daunting. So I bet Kate remembers when I got my first job out of school, because I was working in the office at the time and heavily job searching. In the fall, I thought I wanted to go back abroad to England where I studied, and I was all into that. And when that didn't come through, I had to rethink everything. And I ended up kind of just sporadically being in Kate's office, we were putting up the description for this position, which I was the first intern. So I helped, write the description, and up on Handshake popped, like, do you want to work, Tom Breyer for Congress? I was thinking about campaigns. I Googled it. I did a couple of big federal internships at Dickinson, and it just kind of came through quickly. It was like, decide tomorrow if you want to do this job. And I started working while I was finishing school, worked for a year and a half as the finance director. So I mostly raised money. We raised $650,000. I got to work as the official signatory on our bank account, which was really awesome. So if you're into politics at all, I did not study it. I studied classics and environmental studies, and I ended up learning a lot as a young person. And then in the summer, we unfortunately lost in June. And so I basically spent 5 weeks reaching out to the entire network that I had built through college, through people I met at college, and my current job. I work at a huge consulting firm. It came from a connection from I went to a conference with a professor at Dickinson called PERC at Penn State as a favor to him, because I was doing a lot of community research, and met a guy named John Quigley, who was the former DEP secretary, Department of Environmental Protection. And, he knows this guy. And then it also turns out the other contact that I had was through the campaign. And this guy had donated to our campaign. One person knows someone who knows someone. They say Olivia's great, and it just leads to a job. So my advice is don't spend your time on Handshake. Was kind of lucky. Spend time with the people reach out to us, reach out to any Dickinson alums you might have something in common with, and really just be earnest and honest and authentic about what you want to do and why you want to do it. And for me, that's really fallen into place. My first internship at Dickinson was through a Dickinson soccer alum. I played soccer. Great connection, and that kind of started my trajectory. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. I'll pass it to Claire.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, okay. So my path after Dickinson has been a little bit all over the place, much like my time at Dickinson in terms of internships and things that I did while I was there. I majored in history, and I think like many seniors did not really know what I wanted to do with my degree. I thought I wanted to do archival work, figured out I hated that. I thought I wanted to do grant writing. Turns out I didn't really like that either. And so I figured when I was a senior that maybe consulting or something like that would be a good place to start, so that I could at least learn about a bunch of different fields and figure out where I wanted to maybe focus in later on in my career. And similar to Olivia, I found my first job pretty much by chance. I remember I was sitting outside the Biblio, scrolling through jobs, and I saw an advertisement for a Dickinson alum coming to campus within 2 weeks. And I saw that it was a consulting gig, and I just applied on a whim that day. And that ended up being my first job for 3 years. So as a consultant at this company, I got to work with some really cool clients like the National Park Service, the IMF, the World Bank, and I learned a lot about, those hard skills like project management, consulting, facilitation, all that good stuff. And I also learned where I wanted to move next in my career. I think my first job was great in that I learned a lot, which you're going to do at any job. And it helped me realize that I really wanted to make a shift into the nonprofit world. So about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I made that shift. And now I'm working in a really cool job with hospitals across the country at a really timely moment where it's really important. So I would say, in terms of my advice, I think it's really easy to fixate on a certain role or a certain company that you want to work at, which is great. If you have it and you can aim for that, that's fantastic. And I'll also say that your first job might not be what you expected it to be. I know that was definitely the case for me. So I would say, whenever you're searching for a job, think about the values that are driving your search. So what is it you're looking for? Are you looking for a job where you can move up quickly and you can learn a lot? Or are you looking for a job that's like very mission oriented and you feel good about at the end of the day? Or are you looking for a job that has a good team culture or that pays you a lot so that you can start paying off those student debts? Whatever whatever's driving your search, don't be shy about it and use that as a lens through which to think about your opportunities there. And know that even if your job right out of school isn't exactly what you thought it would be, it's definitely going to be a learning experience, and you're going to grow so much from that first experience. So I'll turn it over to Cody on that note.
Like that was a beautiful segue into exactly what I'm about to explain. So my path after Dickinson, well, as a mathematics and economics dual major, I thought, what better career to have to involve both math and econ would be financial advising. So of course, applying for all financial advising firms, thought I was going to be the world's best financial advisor. Turns out when I got hired by one and, went through the process of, testing and everything, passing some exams, going through the process of not passing some, I realized it just wasn't for me because, from working in college through work study and then not really having the funds to pay for these exams, being a for lack of a better phrase, broke college student didn't really go in my favor to pay for these other exams I had to take. So I had to, put my big boy pants and definitely search for another route. And I was lucky enough to come across an opportunity at Campbell's as a supply chain analyst. And at Campbell's, I feel like at my time at Campbell's initially, I learned the ropes. I was able to network with individuals, and I began to flourish. And that transcended to a whole bunch of other opportunities to where I am now as a customer sales lead. But my advice to seniors and anyone who's at Dickinson, it's okay to not know what you want to do. Literally, there are so many pathways that your major can take you.
I still don't know what I want to do.
Exactly. There are so many pathways that your majors can take you that it's unbelievable what you might end up with at the end result. But at the end of the day, when you find that passion, when you find what you're hungry for, you have to want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe. So I'm just going to leave it with that.
Yeah, that's all great. I personally found it very comforting and encouraging as a senior myself. So I know we'll take any advice we can possibly get.
It's going to be fine. It's going to be
Everything's going to be fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. And then, so moving on to the second question, how have you remained connected to Dickinson since graduating? And how has the level of engagement with Dickinson grown since becoming an alumni?
So to no one's surprise, I was a super engaged Dickinsonian on campus. And I was like, my senior year, it was like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen when I leave? Are people going to like let it go? I could tell you all the decorations in this house that I'm living in now are all Dickinson because everything I own, I brought with me. But actually I was lucky. My post-grad job, I stayed in Central PA. And so I was actually up and back to campus for my job. The campaign included Carlisle. I had created a network on campus of students that were engaging with the campaign that I was like liaising to. And was trying to integrate that into my job, which was really wonderful. As I mentioned, I played soccer, so I had a lot of friends. I went to all their games that I could, which was really fun. And I also was able to like help them. A lot of my friends were seniors, helping them through the job process. Now that I'm a little bit further out, I still have some friends on campus. So if I know you, hi, on here. Just send me a message. But I've actually been doing a lot of resume help for students. I've been doing job calls for students. Obviously, I'm in the Mermaid Society. I just did an Instagram takeover recently in the fall, which was super fun, just to kind of show like day in the life of an alum. Because one of my friends is the current student photographer, and she was like, "Oh, Olivia, you should just do it. Like they'll say yes to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that'll be fun." So that was really fun. And my friend who is the photographer, we were able to do a couple of photo shoots that she needed for Joe in the office. So helped her with that. And honestly, it's been interesting now that I moved to DC in January. So I was in the Central PA area and now I'm in DC. And there's a lot of Dickinsonians down here. And so the minute you get together, we were reminiscing about CAF the other day. And I can't wait till we go back and we get to see the soccer field or whatever it is. One of my good friends from Dickinson has a job at NIH now, and she lives up the street, and we get breakfast in the morning. She's like, "Oh, do you remember when we did this in school?" And so I think part of it is I told someone this recently, that the magic of Dickinson is just a little harder to obtain when you leave campus. You just have to like work a little bit harder to like create that magic, whether it's like from like a low level engagement or from a high level engagement. For me, like I'm trying to find a good rhythm with that. But of course I'm keeping, you know, on social media, it's a very low level, but I think it's really the people and the professors and you know, doing that front porch coffee or that Zoom coffee with those people and staying engaged on campus. So really that was, there's a lot of things you could do to stay engaged, but it comes down to effort and it comes down to people. So I've been enjoying being an alum so far. I love hopping on things like this, like anything I can do for the school I do, and anyone who reaches out I engage with, especially current students. So.
Yeah, for me, I was also very active on campus. I think one of my favorite ways that I've continued to stay involved is doing admissions interviews for folks who can't come on campus, which is very important, especially these days. But I also, I mean, any chance that I get to go back, I ran cross country while I was at Dickinson, so I try to go back for the big home meet of the year. And I have spoken on a couple history major panels for seniors or for folks just interested about how others are using their history degrees. And then in my last job, one of my favorite parts was we had a pretty robust pipeline to Dickinson in terms of hiring our summer interns, and many of whom actually became full-time employees. And that's still a priority given that the CEO of that company is a Dickinson alum. And then I think my most relevant activity right now is, alongside Cody, I am part of Dickinson's Alumni Council, which is a really great opportunity to have your voice heard and help. It gives you an opportunity to continue to shape the college. So we meet every few months. We're sorted into kind of different teams or committees. And it's a really great opportunity to stay connected to the college and be able to influence a little bit. And similar to Olivia, I think what I notice is as I get older, it's harder to maintain that as strong a connection to campus. So it really is about effort or intentionality, as Olivia mentioned, and knowing that staying connected to Dickinson is not about how much money you give or like what you do after college. It's about the time that you put forth in whatever way you can. So it really does mean that every little bit that you do, every interview, every LinkedIn conversation, every dollar, like it all matters so much to the college and to building that community that we all benefit from.
Yeah, like Claire, I'm going to start by mentioning my time with the Alumni Council. It's going to be almost I think it's my second year of a 3-year term. Giving back to the college in that way brings and connects a lot of additional alumni together from a variety of class years. Like Claire said, we are formed in there are various committees within the Alumni Council designated to enhance the relationship, not only that alumni have with each other, but that alumni have with the current student body. So continual work with that is definitely a way that I continue to give back to the college. Another way, I recently saw today, I was a part of a Samuel G. Rose scholarship video. So that was amazing to see. And also, I was interviewed at Campbell's for Dickinson, and that video is on the Dickinson homepage. I forgot under what, but I am on the Dickinson homepage. Excuse me. But moreover, I continue to be involved, specifically, not literally on campus, but from a virtual standpoint, as the on-campus or campus advisor for the Z Kappa chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. It's really important to me to really have my brothers continue to do the work based off of the foundation that we laid. And as a member to achieve in every field of human endeavor continues to be our forefront. And I just want to continue to mentor those individuals who are currently on Dickinson's campus to be the best that they can be, as graduation is the expectation. So all of them have large shoes to fill, but nonetheless, they're going to give back to Dickinson in the exact same fashions, if not more, than I am.
Oh, also, I forgot to mention my professor in environmental studies let me stay connected to Dickinson by publishing on my thesis. So I don't know if any of you are writing theses. Mine kicked the crap out of me. But I just got notification that that thesis article is being published yesterday. So they let me stay on. They'll still work with you even when you're not a student, I think is the point of that. So definitely stay engaged if you want to keep the door open to academia. I wasn't really sure when I graduated whether academia was like a good space for me, but I wanted to try and get that information that I'd worked so hard on my senior year to get out. So I definitely recommend that avenue because when I was job searching, it gave me an outlet intellectually that was productive as opposed to just sitting on Handshake, sitting on Indeed, refreshing the page every 10 seconds. So that is another strategy, is find other channels that you might be able to lean back on in the job search.
Yeah, that's great. So you are all members of the Mermaid Society, which celebrates Dickinsonians who give back to the college. Could you tell us why you decided to join the Mermaid Society and how being a part of that community has really helped you remain involved at Dickinson?
So I think the most important thing I learned was that the opportunities that you have at Dickinson don't just appear. There are people who are either giving their time, their energy, or their money to make that happen. One of the coolest things I did at Dickinson was study abroad. I did a Latin tutorial at Oxford. It was life-changing. And that opportunity came out of a relationship that I have with a professor who said, you can do it, you're capable, and also here's $8,000 to do it. And I think as I, I also did a few like internships that were through the INP program, through the internship notation program. One was in the Senate and one was for the EPA, both governmental internships. Both were, my parents thought I was crazy. They were like, why would you want to do an internship that's unpaid? Dickinson supports you, you go do that, you meet people, you end up doing really cool things post-grad. So I kind of came to this realization, and it helps when you work in the donor relations office and you're learning, how the mechanics are working, what these people are doing. But I also became a conduit to my friends who were not super engaged, who didn't really want to give to the school, as to why it's important to stay engaged. And if you can give what you can. I'm doing the 2019 plan at the moment. But if I keep on the current trajectory, maybe I'm able to sponsor a student for a scholarship. Maybe I'm able to send somebody else to England who maybe would have not been able to go before. So I think for me, it kind of was a no-brainer. It was like, all right, the school's invested in you. You can invest in the school. And now I'm in this network of people like, Claire and Cody that I'm meeting. And it's really nice to see that there's this Dickinson energy outside of just the spaces that I'm in, as well as like the current environment that I'm in with my friends and such. So I don't know, I think part of it is just getting your friends to reflect and yourself on like how much the school is given to you and how can you help enhance somebody else's experience in the future. And this is just one way to keep engaged with the school, and I've enjoyed it so far. And I love getting the things in the mail from the Mermaid Society. I enjoy my kind of quarterly reminder that Dickinson exists, and it's welcoming me home whenever I get back there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, similar to probably a common theme that you'll hear across these is definitely a deep sense of gratitude. I think for me, yeah, like similar to Olivia, Dickinson gave me so much. I met some of my closest friends there. I got an education that to this day does not let me down even for a single moment. And there were just so many aspects to Dickinson that I don't think I would have gotten at another school. But I think the moment for me was I received a scholarship while I was on campus, and that was a big reason why I was able to go to the school. And so knowing that and knowing the different opportunities that I had while at school studying abroad, I also took advantage of the internship program and had a paid internship in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, what a life, especially for nonprofit internships. It was like,
oh,
yeah,
it was a miracle.
They're not paid, but you're paid an experience. It's fine. Anyway, I digress. But so all those things bundled up to like, yes, I knew that this was important to me. And I think what I appreciate the most is the transparency and ability to customize how you give. So I can give to the exact scholarship that I received while I was on campus, or I could give to the cross country team or the writing center, like whatever matters to me personally about my experience, I can direct my funds towards. And I'm a strong believer that a budget is reflective of what you value. And so I'm more than happy to budget $25 a year or whatever it is towards a school that gave me so much. And I think similar to Olivia and Cody, it's just nice to connect with other Dickinsonians who care about the school and want to make it even better than how it was for when they were there.
Similar to Olivia and Claire's points, I really had a passion to join the Mermaid Society simply because coming from the inner city, you have a lot of negative connotations put on you, especially being a Black male. And it was up to me to prove that I will not fit into that statistic. So joining the Mermaid Society and being the recipient of a gracious scholarship, I wanted to give other individuals, not only who look like me, but also had the passion that I do, an opportunity to be able to venture into a world that they are unfamiliar with, uncomfortable with, and that is in higher education. The opportunity that Dickinson has given me is inexplainable, to be completely honest. Like Olivia and Claire, I've had an internship that I don't think exists anymore at Dickinson. It was called the National Science Foundation STEM program. I was the second class a part of that program. And every summer I got to work one-on-one with the professor, an actual paid internship through the National Science Foundation. And I got to work one-on-one with the professor to bring about a project that they were working on and that we were passionate about that aligned with our potential majors. Shout out to Professor Zwimmer. But the investment that Dickinson had in me and gave to me for me to be able to apply that to everything that I'm doing now, I just want to be able to give that opportunity to someone else who has that same drive, that same passion, and that same kind of energy to be a Dickinsonian that benefits the world someday and can change the world someday.
Yeah. Going along with that previous question, how was the level of engagement in the Mermaid Society different, and how does it stand out from giving to the college in other ways? What are their benefits to being a mermaid?
Well, you're called a mermaid. Let's just start with that. No, I think what's different is that it doesn't take $1 million to be a mermaid, but it does take a lot of passion. And every person that I've talked to or engaged with within the society kind of shares the same values that Cody and Claire, and I haven't even met them before today. And I can feel like we're on the same energy level about Dickinson and what it's kind of done for us. And so it's really special when you're in that, again, that Dickinson magic that I'm not feeling as much anymore because I'm not physically on campus and there and doing it every day, when you have kind of set that up in your schedule to engage with those people and engage with that network. So I think it's more so the aura, the Dickinson aura is present within the Mermaid Society, and it's everyone. It's not just, it's young people, it's older people. I volunteered last year or 2 years ago now at the 50-year mermaid, 25-year mermaid society. It was kind of like a honors type scenario, and you're seeing these people who just love the school. They love being with their friends. They love going back there, and they've been giving for so many years because of course they're going to give to Dickinson. So I've enjoyed being able to see that kind of long-term, and then also with my friends and recent alum in the short term, and we're all kind of part of that network. So I think it's really special.
I could basically say ditto, and that would encapsulate my response. But I think what resonated with me about what Olivia just shared is, when you graduate, you lose that immediacy of being on campus and being surrounded by people who have those common ties. And I think especially when you move to a brand new city after graduation, and maybe you don't have as many connections there, it's just one way that you can, meet another Dickinsonian and immediately share a similar bond. And I think that's really powerful. So I'll leave it at that. Cody?
Yeah, Claire, I think you summed it up perfectly. Dickinson teaches us, it gives us a great liberal arts education, but literally, and it provides the what you know. But sometimes it's also not about what you know, it's about who you know. And being able to network with other mermaids, being able to network with other individuals who could provide you the opportunity of a lifetime goes a long way. And those once in a lifetime opportunities, simply because you all share that connection of, hey, you went to Dickinson? Oh, that's what's up. Awesome. It's so many instances that happen like that, where you meet someone, you have lunch, and it winds up leading to other opportunities, extracurricular opportunities. But also, got you, Claire. Literally, you cannot be afraid to network. You can't be afraid to know who's in the room, take that stand and say, hey, my name is blank. Nice to meet you. And literally work on that elevator speech. But literally, networking is crucial, and that is also a true benefit of the Mermaid Society. You meet so many Dickinsons from so many different class years who you think have no kind of connection to you at all besides you both went to Dickinson. On the contrary.
All right, so before we move into the question and answer portion, would you have any other advice or suggestions that you would like to share with our seniors?
Sure. I think kind of going back to the networking component, I kind of put in the chat, you're not working unless you're networking. It's one of those things that doesn't need to be transactional. And if you do start with the Dickinson environment, it's super authentic. We've all been there. We all know what it's like. People are going through many transitions right now, and things are changing very rapidly. And this is like a network to lean on, and we're here to support you. And I've reached out to so many alum randomly, through people, not through people. If you kind of have that Dickinson network already established, it's more authentic than you think. And so if you do want to talk about networking offline, I'm happy to do that. I find it very fun. I love connecting passion to jobs for people. So just send me a message. It could be the difference between you doing something you really love and getting stuck in something that you're not as sure about, or you feel like you're settling. So that's kind of my closing thoughts before the Q&A.
And as someone who, as I put in the chat, I really don't like networking. I am a 110% introvert. Like thinking about it as, okay, what is the worst thing that happens? Like 5 seconds of awkwardness, or someone says, thank you, but I don't have what you need. Like you can survive that. It's going to be just fine. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, it'll all work out. But I think something that's really important, especially for recent grads, is talking about work-life balance and setting boundaries. I think I know I did this where when I started out in my first job, I was so nervous about doing everything right and always being there and being seen as a good employee that I said yes to literally everything. And that's great to an extent, but it also meant for me that I became, someone who was answering emails at random hours of the night. And I think I had someone tell me that busyness is not success. and your job does not define who you are. So even if it's as simple as saying on Tuesdays, I'm going to go play volleyball with my friends or whatever it is, like being able to set those boundaries for yourself and say, I'm going to be offline by this time for this thing, like that is so important, because burnout is common in every single industry or job, you name it, it's there. And so you just got to protect yourself up front and know, what you need in order to be healthy mentally and physically and all that good stuff.
I have some advice and suggestions. Let's see. I'm going to start with one. Seniors, Dickinsonians, there is never a such thing as a dumb question. Let's start by saying that. And I say that because by not asking, well, closed mouths don't get fed. Simple and plain. But at the end of the day, asking questions gets you the opportunities that you wouldn't have had if you didn't. Two, as Olivia mentioned, you are not alone in any of this. There are so many networks to reach out to. Once again, the concept of networking is crucial. We have Alumni Fire. There are instances like this to ask questions that you maybe wouldn't have the opportunity to ask anywhere else. You have your advisors on campus. You have other fellow Dickinsonians who might, who in your same class, and who might be the gateway into something else, another opportunity. You never know. And three, I think I lost three, but it's fine. I think I lost three, but those two I think are fairly solid.
That's great. So now we will enter into the question and answer portion. So if anyone has any specific questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Kate, I don't know if you have seen any yet come through. If not, I can ask a few questions as well. So
we don't have any questions in the chat right now, but just a reminder to put your questions in if you do have any questions for our panelists. So Julia, if you have questions you'd like to ask, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So one of the questions I have is, how have you seen the pandemic change the work culture of the hiring process? And if you know of any areas that might be the best areas to look into for current students that may be thriving due to the pandemic or may not be particularly affected by it.
Olivia, jump in.
Yeah. I just did this. So the job I'm at, I've only been at 6 months. So I worked in politics before. I could have taken another job immediately in politics. I never intended to go into politics. It was kind of, my family's not political, small town, Northeast PA. It felt like a fluke. It was fun, but it definitely led to a lot of burnout. As we were mentioning, there's no boundaries on a political campaign. It was an amazing experience. If you are into politics, I do recommend you try it. It made me figure out that I shouldn't be looking in law. I should be looking to go to maybe into business of some kind. I was managing people. I was managing tasks. I had a lot of people tell me I should look into consulting. Part of it's personality driven. Part of it's kind of what I was doing on the campaign. Where I work now, the business is up 20% because of COVID. I work on the coronavirus response and recovery. It's government consulting. So there's a lot of government need right now. The commercial side is kind of down. So I recommend looking for things that we're able to transition successfully from in-person to remote environment. I'm 100% virtual. I don't think we're going to go back for another year. And it's perfectly fine. It's not my preferred way of working. I'm a very in-person type person. So eventually we might transition back to a hybrid. So my advice is cast the net as wide as you can, talk to as many people as you can, spend more time talking to people than researching online. People open doors, applying online closes them. It's incredible. I ended up only really searching for 5 weeks. I had 2 really great options. One was through Dickinson alum, and one is the job that I ended up taking. And it was kind of asking what's around, what's open. I have heard, and I spent most of my Dickinson life in the nonprofit community impact space that corporations, if you're going to try it, this might be the time to do that. I have heard that. That's where I ended up going. But really, there's jobs anywhere. I've directed a lot of my friends to the AmeriCorps. I helped my friend get that job at the NIH by just helping her manicure her resume, talk to the right people. Like, there's a will, there's a way. You just have to be open. One thing I did do that was really helpful was creating buckets of potential tracks I might have wanted to go down, and then tracking it that way of like, who did I talk to today? And then also, what did I research today? What did I find out? To the point where I was connecting other friends. You know, there was a alum who worked at Gartner who was fluent in Spanish and did, you know, travel consulting. And my friend Kristen was a double major in Spanish and poli-sci. And I felt like she'd be a better connection for him than I was. So you end up kind of helping each other out. Be open with your friends, be open with your network, and let other people do the searching for you, as opposed to you feeling like you have to do it by yourself. So that's a huge monologue. But again, if you want to talk about it more in depth, like, please send me a message. I just did it. It's really fresh and I want to help, because it is really hard, and it can get discouraging if you're not leaning on the network that you do have.
I would say, when like in pre-COVID times, like you would hear, like as you're prepping for interviews and the job search, you would hear things like about how important like a strong handshake is, or how like important, like your presence is in a room, and you don't have that in a virtual setting, or at least you don't have it in the same way. So I look at it as like an equalizer of sorts. So instead of focusing on those kind of physical in-person things, it's focusing on different details. So every little thing matters. Like, how good is your audio on your computer? Do you have any background noise? Can you put up like a Zoom background so that you can limit distractions? Is your like resume and cover letter like immaculate? Are you using like a different template that stands out from kind of the typical resumes that someone might see? So I think ditto to everything Olivia said, especially in this day and age, relationships are what matter the most. And all these other little details will just help you even more in getting up the ladder.
And feeling calm, because I had to interview digitally after I'm clearly extroverted. That's what usually gets me a good first impression. And I was very nervous about, is my personality going to translate in a digital environment? And I had a lot of friends help me do mock interviews. I interviewed at multiple places I didn't necessarily want to get the practice. Both my final interviews, there were 3 of them. They were phone interviews. They couldn't even see me. So it was very intense for me to try and translate what I was used to doing into the virtual environment. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more people you practice with, the better. The more you do things like Claire is saying, to like calm yourself down, like control the controllables, and then like let the rest kind of happen.
Yeah. And breathe. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in an interview, regardless of whether you're virtual or in person, and just start like spiraling and talking really, really quickly. And I kid you not, like when I've put my notes together for an interview, I will literally type out pause to breathe and bold it, highlight it, like you name it. I have it on my notes because I will forget. And like little things like that, just as Olivia said, are really important.
I paced my apartment during the interviews because I'm a high energy person. No, I literally, the interview, I just paced the whole time just to get that energy out. They couldn't see me. It didn't matter. It did help, I think. It made me sound super calm during the interviews.
I want to kind of take a different perspective on that question, Julia. And it's more so about knowing your experiences and how you present your experience to the interviewer. Because no matter what is on that resume, sheet of paper, cover letter, et cetera, backup information, however, whatever you decide to submit to your employer, how you convey your experience, how you convey that relatable experience to that potential job is literally what's going to set you apart from everyone else. And I believe, to my knowledge, every Dickinsonian has a very, very, very relatable experience that they can use when speaking to an interviewer. And second, I think you mentioned like who do you think is potentially hiring around this time? Like, I would say because of this situation we are all in right now, due to the pandemic, I would say a lot of CPG companies are hiring. And CPG, for those who do not know, consumer product goods, things that people are eating and things that people need on a regular basis to live, survive, the basic necessities. These kind of companies, whether it's through manufacturing, whether it's through sales, whether it's through marketing, these individuals are hiring because they in essence need people. The demand for these goods and services is at an all-time high. And to be honest, there's no telling when it's not going to be in demand. It's kind of like a safety net for everything, a job safety net, because at the end of the day, to bring, I guess, toilet paper into this kind of equation, everyone's going to need toilet paper. At the end of the day, everyone's going to need some form of nourishment, so food. So look for CPG companies that might be hiring, and bring your experiences to the table.
Kate, do you have any specific questions that you would like to address?
No, I think it's been a great conversation. Are there any other questions that you have, Julia?
I'm good, but I think it's getting close to that time to wrap up. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining today who made time to participate. I really appreciate it. And so do our panelists. I really appreciate all of you guys taking time out of your schedules to meet with us. Just another reminder to donate to the Senior Gift Committee if you're able. I know we would really appreciate it as well. And this will be going up on our website, hopefully sometime soon as well. So you'll be able to rewatch if you have any more questions, and feel free to reach out to any of our panelists, like they said. And yeah, just thank you for joining us tonight, and have a great night, and keep up to date for any information that we have regarding the Mermaid Society.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.